How do you prove that your marriage is actually real to an immigration officer? Hi, my name is Mohammad Saleem. I'm an attorney in New York. I've been practicing immigration law since 2010. And in this video, I'm going to give you actual questions that a senior USCIS immigration officer asked my clients recently in an interview in 26 Federal Plaza. Right behind me is 26 Federal Plaza. If you live in New York City, you're an immigrant, you probably know about this place. This is where they conduct the majority of the interviews. If you live in Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, Manhattan, Staten Island, you're going to come here for your green card interview. If you filed your case here in New York City, you're going to have your green card interview most likely behind me in 26 Federal Plaza. In this video, I'm going to cover the 5 types of questions that the senior immigration officer asked my clients on their green card marriage-based interview. I want to share the types of questions that they asked and the responses that my clients gave, because in 2020, immigration officers are becoming a lot more smarter in terms of examining the types of marriages. Especially due to COVID, a lot of people weren't able to have big weddings and other things like that. So, tune into this video. You're going to see the types of questions. Now, when my clients went in to this interview, they had hired me for the interview itself. I want to mention that because they said, Mr. Saleem, we couldn't afford to hire an attorney to prepare our paperwork that we submitted. We went to a paralegal. That person does this, and I don't even know if they're a lawyer or if they have training. So I looked at their paperwork and I was like, there's some issues in here. I want to raise them to you. You're going to have to address them and fix them at the interview. So when they went in, the immigration officer already had the paperwork, ready and filed and was examining everything. So when we went into the interview, they were placed under oath, both of them. The wife was a U.S. citizen. She had sponsored her immigrant husband. The client had come to me, and he's the husband. He's like, I want to hire you. I'm worried about this interview. I think there's some mistakes that were made by the person who prepared the application. So as soon as we went in, the interview started. One of the first questions they asked the wife was, how did you meet your husband? We've been living in a COVID world. How did you meet your husband? What's the story? What happened? Who approached who? How did you guys get married? They're a very young couple. So the wife basically says, we were at a party, and he came up to me. He started talking to me. He asked me out after the party. We started texting, talking, got to know each other over a period of time, and that's how it went on from there. The second question that they asked my clients was a follow-up to the first. Well, okay, then what happened? How did you get decided to suddenly get married? Because it looks like you guys were dating for a period of time. So my client, the wife was like, well, he approached me and said, I like you a lot. We've been seeing each other for a while, and, I want to take it to the next level. I think you're good for me. You're going to be my wife. So she explained that side of the story. And when the immigration officer who had photos there, she's like, how come it's just you two in these photos? How come there's nobody from your family? The wife, who's a U.S. citizen, has family here, not the immigrant husband, whose family's all overseas. And she was like, well, my mother was kind of opposed to the marriage because I was young. She's like, she wasn't sure if this guy was going to be good for me. The immigration officer's like, oh, interesting. Okay, so what happened? The wife had to explain how over time, the mother warmed up, and now the husband's a good, trusted member of the family. So just be aware, they will look at your photos that you're submitting, the documents that you're submitting, the affidavits you're submitting, so my client was able to address that issue really well. Now, of course, any marriage is more than just photos and you having a wedding. The immigration officer said, where do you live? How did you end up living in this place that you're living in now? So again, this is the U.S. citizen wife. She said, I moved into, my husband's apartment after we got married. He was living with somebody, but, there's it's 2 bedrooms. We're living in 1 bedroom. He's living in the other bedroom because I know the immigration officer. Remember, she's a senior officer. She told me she's been doing this for 20 years. She wanted to know why the name was not on the lease, why another person had the lease. So my client said, "So well, we have an understanding of a sublease agreement. Because I'm the immigrant, I couldn't get a lease in my name, and when my wife moved in with me, the landlord didn't want to change the lease because they're already in somebody else's name." She was able to address that. So make sure, if you're, New York City, people have different living situations, arrangements, hard to get apartments, so make sure you're able to address those issues and be prepared to answer those questions. Why you don't have a lease, why you have a sublease agreement, why you have a roommate arrangement. My clients are able to address those issues. Those are things that immigration officers pay attention to. If you don't submit them, they ask you questions. Why didn't you submit them? Speaking about, serious things that they pay attention to, which is related to the fourth type of questions they asked my client. They looked at the bank statements. You have to submit joint bank statements, joint accounts to show that you are in a real marriage and that your marriage is, people are sharing in the financial expenses of marriage. Marriage is expensive. Living together is very expensive. It can't be just one person making the money and paying all the bills. It's a joint effort. So the immigration officer said, okay, you have this bank account from TD. Do both of you work and do both of you put money into it? They said, yes, we do. Then she asked the question, very important, pay attention to this, where are the bank cards? So the wife, the citizen wife, is like, oh, I'm not good with, keeping things. Sometimes I lose them. My husband has the cards. He keeps them safe in his wallet. She said he keeps both your card and his card. Pay attention to that. If you have a bank card, you should keep your own bank card because it shows that you're trusted by your spouse to manage your money. Trust is an integral part of a real marriage. And you can't just be like, I've got bank statements, I've got a lease, all these other documents. They're looking for the more nuanced things. Immigration officers, remember, they've been doing this, every day they come in and they do this. You want to make sure that you're prepared to answer all the questions and not make your case look suspicious, or it looks like somebody's just staging this bank account and putting the money in there but nobody's really using it, or one person has both cards. So that was one thing I think my clients could have done better, but again, they didn't come to me, they only came to me for the interview. But I did mention to them that you've got to make sure that you can demonstrate that. Now the last part, I want to mention this because I think this is relevant and important, is related to each applicant for a green card has to have been vaccinated. So the COVID vaccine, if you want a green card, sorry, you're going to have to get vaccinated for that green card. So immigration officer, unless you can get some exception, there are exceptions to that. The immigration officer asked the wife, citizen wife, I know your husband got vaccinated. Tell me what kind of vaccine he got. Was it Moderna? Was it Johnson & Johnson? Was it Pfizer? And the wife was struggling. She's like, I know he got vaccinated. I think it's Johnson & Johnson. Thankfully, it was Johnson & Johnson. But again, small details that show, if you're going to go get vaccinated, your husband's going to go get vaccinated, you probably want to know a little bit more about the details, because in a marriage, husband and wife have to know the health and general conditions and well-being. So those are some of the questions I'm seeing now in 2022. This was by a senior immigration officer. She had been doing this for 22 years. She straight out said it. She also used to do Stokes interviews as well. So she's been somebody who's been examining critically marriages. And my feeling is that these clients, they didn't have a lawyer, they had a paralegal or somebody put together the application. So the immigration officer was thinking, maybe I can catch them off guard, because sometimes, immigration doesn't always want to give you a green card if they think your marriage looks staged, isn't properly, the bona fides aren't properly there, because immigration's job is to perhaps, just look with a little bit of scrutiny to see if they're going to give you a benefit that you're deserving of that benefit. And again, the burden of proof is on you. You're the immigrant. You have to prove that you are deserving of that benefit that's there. Now, final thing, I'll mention this, is always be truthful in your immigration interview. I want to mention this because during this client's interview, he said, hey, the green card applicant, not the citizen, the green card applicant said, I did work when I didn't have a work permit because I had to feed myself and my wife and support her while our work permit got processed. So in the application, he mentioned nothing about work. So when she asked him, I told him prior to this, I prepped him. I said, you've got to answer the truth under all circumstances, because if they catch you in a lie, it's going to be bad. Your case is going to be denied. So he did answer that correctly and said, I had to make some money. So I was selling some stuff on Amazon or eBay, and I was making some money off of that. And that didn't hurt him. It doesn't hurt him against the law. It doesn't hurt you. All right. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos in 2022 to help immigrants. So subscribe, and tune in the future as well. We're going to try to make it easy to explain immigration law so that you can understand it. You can help your family and friends and others understand it. Because I know it's hard. Not everybody can get access to a lawyer. But reach out to us if you need help.